Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we will be discussing about another very important history topic, that is the split in the Congress and the rise of revolutionary terrorism. So in the already few classes, we have discussed about the Swadeshi movement, about the formation of Indian National Congress, the myth and reality and all. So now this is the next topic. So in the Swadeshi movement, we saw that there were two wings within the Congress. One wing was called moderate and another wing was called as extremist. And we also saw the differences which appeared between the moderates and extremists. So when it came to Swadeshi movement, or when it comes to anti-partition movement, so extremists wanted to take this movement to the whole of India and give it a color of a national movement, whereas moderates, they wanted to confine it to Bengal itself. So these were the basic differences between the moderates and extremists. In the subsequent days, the differences, they evolved. Okay, they evolved and they increased. And because of this increase in differences, finally there was a split in 1907. So in this topic, we will be discussing about that split and the reasons for that split. Already few of the reasons we have discussed in the previous class, and few of the reasons we'll be discussing here. Apart from that, we'll also be looking into the other aspects, like what happened after the split. Okay, what happened after the split. So here we have made these notes completely keeping the exam demand in mind. So if you go through Bipan Chandra, the content is very bulky. So while extracting the information, we have taken utmost care that not even a single point misses out, either from the prelims point of view or mains point of view. So that is why we will urge you, once this discussion is over, you have to read this topic from Bipan Chandra. And after that, if you have any kind of doubts, or if you think that any important points are missing, then subsequently when we will be conducting live interactive classes, at that time you can ask the questions, and in this fashion you'll get more clarity. So let us begin. So in 1907, so the Indian National Session was held at Surat. The Indian National Session was held at Surat, and who was presiding it? Rash Bihari Ghosh was presiding this session. A very important point. From exam point of view, they may ask you, so where was the 1907 Indian National Congress session held? It was held at Surat. Who was presiding it? Rash Bihari Ghosh. Rash Bihari Ghosh. Next, out of curiosity, as this river appears in the book, so I added the river as well. So now you may ask, so why geography related things are being included in history? But out of curiosity. So Surat is present across river Tapti. Okay, river Tapti in Gujarat. Now, when the split occurred, and a few of the reasons we'll be discussing later on. But from UPSC perspective, it often focuses on different aspects, like who among the following belongs to moderate group, who among the following belongs to extremist group, who among the following belongs to what revolutionary group. So in the book, in one single, they are not consolidated the information. So all these personalities, they are present at different parts of that particular chapter. But here, in order to ease the preparation, and in order to enhance the to revise the things in a faster manner, so I have segregated it this like this. So here you'll find all the moderates in the first column, extremists in the second column, and revolutionaries in the third column. So moderates, extremists, and revolutionaries based on their ideology, based on their methodology. So when it comes to moderates, the various methods used by them were like writing petitions, okay, petitions, making public speeches and all. So when it came to extremists, they had different kind of ideology. For example, boycotting. Whereas when it comes to revolutionaries, so they had a different thought. So they were revolutionaries. So they thought of making a bomb attack, killing. Okay, so these were the methods used by revolutionaries. Let us look into the personalities. So Dadabhai Nauroji, Feroz Mehta, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, H.A. Wadia, Rash Bihari Ghosh, Surendranath Banerjee. So all of them, they belong to moderate wing. Okay, moderate wing. Next, Arvindo Ghosh, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, and B.C. Pal or Bipin Chandra Pal, they belong to extremist group. Next, V.D. Savarkar, Prafulla Chakki, Khudiram Bose, Sachindranath Sanyal, Madan Lal Dhingra, Har Dayal, Madam Kama, Ajit Singh, and Shyamji Krishna Verma, they belong to revolutionaries. Okay, they belong to a group of revolutionaries. Next, let us look into the background. So, if the differences had started arising in 1905 itself, then why did they wait for the split until 1907? Okay, 1907. So in between, we had a session in 1906, Indian National Congress session in 1906. It was held at Calcutta. Who was presiding this session? Dadabhai Naoroji was presiding this session. Next, in this session, the split was avoided. Why the split was avoided? Because the President Dadabhai Naoroji, he was respected by all the nationalists as alike, as a great patriot. So whether it is moderate or whether it is extremists, so both of them, they respected Dadabhai Naoroji. And because of the presence of Dadabhai Naoroji, the split was avoided in 1906 and finally the split occurred in 1907. Apart from that, there are also compromise resolutions because there were two competing forces, extremists and moderates. So in order to bring in and build an understanding between them, 4 compromise resolutions were passed. So these resolutions are Swadeshi, boycott, national education, self-government demands. So here we will not go into deeper aspects of what were these compromise resolutions. So not important from exam point of view, because here we are expected to become jack of all the subjects, not just master of modern history. So here we will not focus into the deeper aspects. Only we shall focus that 4 compromise resolutions were passed, and these resolutions were related to Swadeshi, boycott, national education, and self-government demands. Okay. So because of these things, a split did not occur in 1906. Next, in this context, few of the organizations which appear, so they become important from exam point of view. So from exam point of view, in prelims they focus like who started the organization. So Abhinav Bharat was started by V.D. Savarkar in 1904. Anushilan Samiti, which was a secret society of revolutionaries, it was started by Pramotha Mittar, Barindranath Ghosh, and Jatindranath Banerjee. Similarly, Jugantar, a secret society of revolutionaries, was started by Barindra Kumar Ghosh and Bhupendranath Datta. Next, Servants of India Society was started by Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Next, very important, Indian Councils Act of 1909, which is also called as Morley Minto reforms. So these Morley Minto reforms we will be reading both in history as well as in polity or constitution. When it comes to the evolution of our constitution, so we will be discussing about the Morley Minto reforms as well. So here at the superficial level, we shall focus on few of the important points. So what does Morley Minto indicate? So Minto was the Viceroy of India when these reforms were being brought, and similarly Morley was Secretary of State for India. And out of curiosity, I added some extra information, that is Minto remained as Viceroy from 1905 to 1910. So what were the important provisions of this Act of 1909? So it increased the elected members in Imperial Legislative Council as well as Provincial Legislative Council. So in order to get the things connected easily, so let us compare the Imperial Legislative Council, something similar to present day Lok Sabha. Okay. So in Lok Sabha, we have elected representatives of people. So Imperial Legislative Council was present at the center, similar to Lok Sabha. Provincial Legislative Council are similar to legislative assemblies in our states. So let us consider the example of Karnataka Legislative Assembly, Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, Punjab Legislative Assembly. So here we have MPs, here we have MLAs. So here this 1909 Act, it increased the number of elected members. Okay, elected members increased in both Imperial Legislative Council as well as Provincial Legislative Council. But increase means, for example, if there are 100 here, it will become 120. If there are 30 here, then it will become 32. So we are not interested here in exact numbers, and UPSC also will never focus on numbers. So here what is important is whether the number of elected members increased or not. Because of this 1909 reform, yes, they increased, and both in center as well as at the provincial level. So this information is important. Next, most of the members were still elected indirectly. It means few of the members were elected directly as well as, but most of them were elected indirectly. Few of them elected directly and few of them elected indirectly. So this much, if you remember, sufficient. Next, an Indian was to be appointed a member of the Governor General's Executive Council. So you can watch our class on evolution of the Constitution. So there will come to know that before independence we had a post called as Governor General, or later on it became Viceroy. So first it was Viceroy, later on it became Governor General. So the highest position before independence. So this Executive Council, it can be compared to the present day Council of Ministers. At the central level we have Council of Ministers, right? So similar to that, we can consider, compare it to Council of Ministers. So Governor General's Executive Council. Previously, no Indian was associated with this. Okay, but because of this 1909 reform, an Indian was to be appointed as a member of Governor General's Executive Council. So very important point to note. So from Plim's point of view, definitely it's very important, and even in mains also we can quote to indicate the important development that has taken place as part of 1909 reforms. Next, of the 68 members of the Imperial Legislative Council, 36 were officials and 5 were nominated non-officials. So here the figures like 68, 36 and 5, they are not important. UPSC will never focus. So our focus should be whether the members were only officials or non-officials were also present. So here don't worry much about officials and non-officials. At the superficial level, understand that in the Imperial Legislative Council 1909 reforms, so it retained both officials as well as non-officials. There are few who are called as officials and a few others who are non-officials. Okay, who are non-officials. Similarly here, of the 27 elected members who are directly elected, so here 6 not important, 2 also not important. What is important is few of them were elected by big landlords, okay, people who own big lands, so they were elected by them, and few others were elected by British capitalists. Okay, they are elected by British capitalists. So very important. So here the question that we need to ask to ourselves is whether an ordinary man, did we have adult franchise? No, there was no adult franchise. Only certain section of the society was allowed to vote, and that was big landlords and British capitalists. Okay, British capitalists. Next, the act permitted members to introduce resolutions. So in polity we see about the resolutions whenever we want to take any kind of decision. So that decision, it happens with the help of resolution. So this act empowered the members to introduce resolutions. So in detail we will be discussing about the resolutions in polity. Similarly, the act increased the members to ask questions. So in polity we know that there are various provisions in order for the legislature to exercise its control over the executive. So like question R, okay, and next 0R. So in question R, starred question, unstarred question. Similarly, through this 1909 reforms, extra power was given to the members to ask questions and all. Okay, questions and all. So again, a very important point. Apart from that, separate voting on separate budget items was also allowed. Okay, so this power was an extra power which was given through 1909 reforms. Next, in this context, we need to remember revolutionaries who established centers in London. So questions will be asked in prelims. Who among the following established the revolutionary centers in other countries or in London specifically? So we should be able to recall. It's Shyamji Krishna Varma, V.D. Savarkar and Har Dayal. Similarly, revolutionaries who established center in Europe, Madam Kama and Ajit Singh. Now a question will arise, sir, London is also present in Europe, so why they are given in this fashion? Okay, now don't focus on those deeper aspects. At a superficial level, while going through the book, you will get to know that. So they established a center at London, they established a center in Europe. Okay, so that much information you should be able to retain from exam point of view. Next, few of the incidents which you need to remember, both from prelims as well as mains point of view. So revolutionary acts. So here, Prafulla Chakki and Khudiram Bose. So they threw a bomb, okay, at a carriage which they believed was being occupied by Kingsford. So Kingsford was a judge. So there was some anger against this judge, so called as Kingsford. So that's why they wanted to kill him. So in order to kill him, they threw a bomb. But actually, they did not know that it was not occupied by Kingsford, but rather it was occupied by 2 English ladies. So in that bomb attack, so rather than Kingsford, it were the 2 English ladies who died. Okay, who died. But at least here we can remember the daring attack made by Prafulla Chakki and Khudiram Bose. Okay, Khudiram Bose. So here in prelims they can ask you a question like this. So who among the following made an attack on Kingsford? Prafulla Chakki and Khudiram Bose. When it comes to mains, so when we are presenting our answers from different perspectives, we also need to quote an example of revolutionaries. So while quoting an example of revolutionaries, we can quote either of these examples, either this example or the next example which we will be discussing. Spectacular revolutionary actions of the period. So some revolutionary actions worth or which are memorable. So here Rash Bihari Bose and Sachindranath Sanyal, so they tried to kill Hardinge through a bomb attack. So even though it was unsuccessful, so he survived the wounds. So it's an important revolutionary act which is remembered. Okay, which is remembered, and it had motivated many at that time. Okay, at that time. Next, similarly, assassination of Curzon Wyllie in London. So Curzon Wyllie was killed in London by Madan Lal Dhingra under revolutionary act. Okay, worth remembering, and it is beneficial from both prelims as well as mains point of view. Next, in this context, questions might be asked like this. So revolutionaries were inspired or they copied the methods of whom? So here revolutionaries copied the methods of Irish nationalists, and they also copied the methods of Russian nihilists. So whatever the methods they were using, so similar kind of methods were adopted by revolutionaries in India as well. Next, in this context, we have what Barisal Conference. We already discussed about the Barisal Conference in Swadeshi movement. Okay. Similarly, so in the forthcoming topics, whenever we come across Barisal Conference, we will be adding some extra information. So this was about the split in the Indian National Congress and the rise of revolutionary terrorism. So this information is more than sufficient from both prelims and mains point of view. Again, I'll urge you to read the topic once again and come up with the doubts for the live interactive session. Similarly, in the upcoming classes, we'll be discussing about all the other important topics related to UPSC. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.